Oh, okay. Does anybody remember who? Oh, Paul is here. Wow.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Well, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Bob Meyer. I'm the Executive Director here at Dawn Mountain. It is, first of all, it's wonderful to see so many people on the screen this afternoon. It is also my honor and pleasure to welcome everyone to our annual membership meeting. A little framing for the day. As you all may know, previously this week, we sent out our first ever annual report. And that's going to kind of serve as our guideline for today as we walk through that information. And towards the end, we're going to host a question and answer session to basically address anything that might be on your mind. In our path to our Q&A, we're going to shut down the chat capacity, just so everyone is aware of that. We have a lot of information to share. We have a lot of information that we're excited to share. And the thought process being, so many of these themes and topics are kind of interrelated and touch one another, that if you have a question in one area, there's probably a pretty good chance it's going to get addressed in another area. So we're trying to hold all questions until the end. So if you're in chat and somebody may not see that, there's a purpose for that. And I just wanted to share that in advance. Once again, I'm very happy to see everyone, and I keep looking down at how many people are joining us today, and I'm excited to see that because in my view, sharing something like an annual report and hosting a member meeting is really an expression of our core values: compassion, community, tradition, and transformation. And it's nice to see that alive and well. And speaking of our core values, I am also very happy, of course, to introduce our founders and our leaders who founded these core values, which we all celebrate together as a community, Lama Riggs Droma and Lama Namgyal Dorje. And at this point, I will pass to them and ask them to begin our journey this afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bob, for setting this up so beautifully. And greetings to everyone, echoing Bob. Wow, it's lovely to see you. So a word about our originary vision, what emerged for us that we were inspired to begin what we now call Dawn Mountain. Really, most of all, we wanted to try to share in some small measure to repay the infinite kindness of our teachers. That really is an ongoing source of energy and inspiration for us both. I speak for myself. I believe it's true for both of us. When we moved to Houston in 1989, it was the first time that we were living in a place that didn't have a robust Buddhist community, Sangha, teachers from Tibet or India coming through on a regular basis. And we realized that we wanted that. We were missing that. We had at that point spent pretty much 2 decades studying very closely with a variety of, in my experience, extraordinary teachers, that we had daily contact with. We lived with them much of the time. And we really felt that their kindness modeled for us something that we would like to offer. We wanted to share in some way, make available to as many people as we could the tradition that had, enriched and continues to enrich our lives so much. So one notable point was that Kitson Rinpoche, who was our teacher for 40 years until he passed in 2009, many of you met him also, thankfully. He was coming to Houston, and we decided that we would do a meet weekly for 4 weeks, do a 1 month kind of short course to introduce people to basics of Buddhism so that they could appreciate more easily what they had in front of them when he arrived. And when he did arrive, we did a retreat out at the Margaret Austin Center, and there was clearly energy to continue. So what next? So motivated still by this sharing and interest, we met for quite a while in churches, and then finally were able to rent a space on Bissonnette, an upstairs apartment on Bissonnette, and we were on our way.
And what motivates us is it's a kind of interesting situation. Both Anne and I were privileged and blessed to have studied classical languages. So we know Tibetan, we know Sanskrit, we know Pali, and it's been a thrill to be able to come in contact with Buddhism in its original presentation. And because of that ability, we have a deep respect and honoring of the source tradition. And at the same time, the longer we were involved with the source traditions and with Tibetans and translating for Tibetans, the more acutely we were aware that we are also really Westerners, and that we participate in a Western community, and that we were indeed in a unique position to contemplate and consider the intersection between our community in the West and the tradition and the traditions of living Tibet as we know them. And that is an ongoing process, and that book perhaps will never be completed. And I think that one of the things we pride ourselves on is that I model some of what we do on some of Richard Schwader's work, who is a cultural anthropologist, who really talks about getting the other straight and ultimately being in a kind of dialogical relationship with the other, where the clearer they become, the clearer we become about who we are. And the clearer we become about who we are, the clearer we can really take in the other. And so we really are trying to, for our community, bring forward in a most workable and absorbable manner these teachings, which we are seeing as teachings of transformation, personal transformation, that allow us to, the closer we pay attention to ourselves, the more intentional we are about our attitude towards other, the more richness we see unfold in our lives, both for ourselves and others. One of the things we are particularly interested in is, in general, the teachings of compassion that Buddhism brings forward. My first book was Love and Sympathy in Theravada Buddhism, which looked at the teachings on love and compassion in Theravada Buddhism. And how it is for us as Westerners, when we take on spiritual traditions, often that uptake becomes an excuse for self-recrimination. And so one of the things we are always working with, more and more, I'm tempted to say, is how not only do we cultivate compassion for others, but how do we assure compassion for ourselves in our practice as we are attempting to bring a process of transformation into our lives?
Mm. And that continues to animate and inspire us. It's an endlessly creative process, feeling continually in touch with all that we have received from our teachers and in conversation right now still with our teachers who are exemplary exponents, of the Tibetan tradition. So we continue to learn about ourselves as contemporary Houstonians and also learn about the interface between that and what we see in our teachers who model for us in every way the kind of dual compassion that Harvey just mentioned. They are kind to themselves. They work really hard. They're very strict in some ways, continually, concerned to share, do what they can for their communities. So they really model a heartfelt sense of community with a recognition of one's own being as something that is valuable, valuable. And so it's just a blessing to continually be able to share what we feel we can offer, and at the same time to learn, always. Learning from teaching is profoundly regarded as one of the ways you do learn. Learning from the way that you mirror back your questions, your own insights. It feels like a very powerful dialogue that in fact is occurring between ourselves and the Sangha here, between ourselves and the Sangha with, for example, Rinpoche in Tibet, that great things are possible. We see that people are growing, you are maturing, you are learning. This is so rewarding. We are able to reach children, or we hope to continue to reach children in our new home, Skylit. And we have a wonderful board that has been doing so much work. And with Bob as our executive director, there's just been a lot of blessings. We never dreamed really of this kind of growth that we're seeing now, and that our teachers are absolutely, almost demanding, but certainly encouraging and supporting. So all of this is endlessly energizing and just a tremendous blessing to be part of. And thanking all of you for your part in it.
And brief, what lights our fire in all of this is that the recognition as we slow down and explore our own experiences, there are multiple layers of richness, freshness, and meaning that we can traverse. With each layer, we transform the ordinary everyday into something new and alive and beneficial. Curiosity begets curiosity, freshness begets freshness, and compassion begets tenderness. Mm. We often cite an ancient scripture that says that geese provide teachings to one another through the flapping of their wings. And we very much see our community as an opportunity to do this with one another. And within the context of appreciating our communal life, at this moment, we also wish to recognize one of the senior members of our community, Sharon Jackson, who has served and worked with us for pretty much as long as Dawn Mountain has been in existence. We have, as a board, created a resolution honoring Sharon, which the board will present to her. We have also discussed with her some plants that she in particular would like as a gift and recognition of all that she has done. Sharon has been a critical piece of Dawn Mountain since its beginning. She has brought her ability to plan, which is stratospherically far advanced from anything that Anne or I can provide, her discerning eye for beauty, and an amazing skill at community building. to the forefront of our community. During retreats, Sharon would, when there'd be more than 100 people, she made everything run smoothly, down to the smallest detail. So we didn't have to concern ourselves that the trains were running on time.
Yeah, so such gratitude to you, Sharon. It's it's really impossible to summarize in any brief way what Sharon has meant to us as a friend and as part of the founding board of Dawn Mountain and partner in everything that Dawn Mountain has done since we met. Since she first started regularly coming, I think, when we were on Bissonnette. And, we used to say we are the three pillars of Dawn Mountain because for well over a decade, I would say, it was us. And that means that a lot of it was her because we couldn't do the thing, as we began to actually congregate as a community. There are many things. It takes a village. And for a long time, Sharon was mostly that village. We didn't have experience in administration and so on. So she was just and continues to be a tremendous gift. When Asum Rinpoche started coming, suddenly we needed practice texts that looked really nice for over 100 people. And Sharon's company, Natural Graphics, turned out to be, didn't turn out. She and Chip offered it, and it became the publishing arm of Dawn Mountain. She came back one day and said, there's just stacks and stacks of books all over my company. And it was a great gift. We had, first-class printer availability to make it beautiful. And then in about, I think, 2005, we moved to Richmond. And this was our first kind of real temple space. I was in retreat, which was very hard on Harvey and very hard on Sharon. It was kind of the only time I could do a retreat that I'd kind of been told to do. And I wasn't here. And then on top of that, Kitson Rinpoche was coming. So, of course, it had to be all perfect very quickly. And 1/3 of us was gone. And Sharon she got people who also helped, but really she designed that temple. And everyone who came to it said, wow, I just feel so comfortable here, to make a temple that looks Tibetan, but still feels right in Houston. It was just magnificent. She found, I still don't know how really, photographs of teachers in our lineage and arrange them beautifully. And that's still our template. We did that again at Naomi. We'll find a way to do it at Skylit. She really set the template for what a Tibetan temple in Houston could look like and feel like. It was a marvel. And she thought of everything on top of all of the details. She even found really aesthetically pleasing shelves that we could put our shoes in. And it goes on and on and on. In the big retreats, Harvey has mentioned that she organized, and we had never organized a retreat for 100 people. We held it out at Circle Lake. And, there were flowers for the teachers, the visiting teachers. There were special dishes, which is Tibetan custom. You really need to do that. There were flowers in the dining. All infinite detail. And she organized people who helped. She really masterminded it. And so these are just a few of many, many inspiring memories. The bottom line is that there was never a time when we really needed something, and there were many times when we really needed something that Sharon didn't step up and help us take care of it. And she is in a leadership position as the head of her company, a lot of love and family responsibilities. And she just incorporated Dawn Mountain into her sphere of activities. And now that she is, I'm not sure if we said, but Sharon has you know, determined that in her wisdom that this is a moment for her to step off for the board. So for the first time, we're having board meetings, first time ever, we're having board meetings without Sharon. And at the same time, you know, when she told us that she for very good reasons wanted to, you know, have more time in her life, including for practice, to step away from the board, she also, without our even asking, because of course we hoped, said that she would stay with us. She will, much as she used wisdom and administrative and temple decoration earlier, she has a lot of Dharma wisdom, which she told us that she is also willing to share. She's senior teacher at Dawn Mountain, the longest term and very, very accomplished practitioner. So we are very grateful for that. And we look forward to your sharing your gifts in that way. And so we just wish you that you will indeed enjoy a leisure that you have not had before. You have worked really, really hard in all the ways that I've mentioned and more. And, you know, we're sad that you're not on the board, but I take great pleasure, I think we all do, in thinking of you relishing your yellow rose bush and your gardenias and your lemon tree, along with all the other beautiful things that you have in that Pure Land that you and Chip created that you call your hacienda. So
just to bring this to a rapid conclusion, I'll just say one or two more things. And Sharon does have a particular gift that she has never met a stranger. And she really was the person to create the social web of welcoming in our community. And that web is intact and alive and well. And it's just something very natural to her. And it's very, very palpable as a testament to her open-hearted support for all people who have come to Dawn Mountain. We have given Sharon a very, very special rose bush, and we do wish you to know that you will always be our very, very special yellow rose of Texas. We love you, and we appreciate you so much.
We love you a lot, Sharon.
And we are praying for your
always grateful
enjoyment of your retirement from the board.
And may Chip enjoy it also. And we want to offer you now symbolically, we will find a way to give you this kata.
A beautiful kata.
In the Tibetan tradition with the 8 auspicious symbols and from Chengdu, blessings from Rinpoche, and may it grace your life for a long time also. Here it is. Catch it.
Okay.
Okay. Back to you, Bob.
Lama Ann, Lama Harvey, thank you so much for that framing. 2 observations on my part, which I would like to think are worth noting, but also looking at my screen, it's also a great chance to grab more Kleenex as we transition to our next topic. Again, Lama Ann, Lama Harvey, thank you for sharing kind of the origin story of Dawn Mountain. I think it's a great reminder, not just of who we are, but a great reminder of why we are. And I think that's beautiful framing for today's conversation. And of course, Sharon, I know I speak on behalf of anybody who's ever met you. With your leadership on the board, you have been both foundational and inspirational. And we're in great debt for that. And speaking of our board and speaking of foundational and inspirational, we're going to transition into introducing Kate Hutton, who is our Vice President of Administration, to give a board overview on where we've been and where we're headed. And I think it's important to note the Dawn Mountain's Board of Directors describes themselves as a working board. And I've had experience with many not-for-profits who say, oh, we have a working board. And some really do. And some are a working board in the sense that we've all heard the cliche, there are those willing to work and there are those willing to let them work. That is not the Don Mountain board. I would describe it, board members forgive me, but it's kind of a full contact relationship. Everyone is there and active in terms of time, talent, and treasure. And we are very honored by that. It moves us forward and it helps us remain true to who we are. And the person who is herding all of those cats all at once again, is Kate Hutton, our VP of Admin. Kate?
Thanks, Bob. So I wanted to first introduce our board. So the board members who are online right now, I just wanted to have you wave. So I thought we'd start with, yes, please wave. And then we're just going to introduce each person individually. So I wanted to start with Simone Woodage. If we could show Simone. Yes. And so we have Simone, and we have Janet Montez Diaz, also online. She's with the Temple Board. Yeah, thanks. Joanne Schneider, who is both on the board and and Janet is our secretary. Joanne Schneider, who is our treasurer. Carolyn McKnight. And then, of course, Anna Harvey. Wait a minute, Carolyn. There we go. There she is. Great. And Carolyn's with a program working group. And then, of course, Anna and Harvey, they're on both the Dawn Mountain boards and the Tibetan Buddhist temple as well. So I will also just quickly show you the whole list. Oops, sorry. That's our whole list of people. So Charles Wood is also on the board. He's on the Dawn Mountain board. And Gary Gaunt is on the Temple board, but they're not here today, it looks like. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about our first of all, this is our first official business meeting. We've never had one. We've been wanting to do one for a bit. And we haven't had an official annual report. So the report that we sent out is a little bit more than annual, as I'm sure a lot of you saw. We kind of needed to roll back a little bit just to cover what have been really pivotal events for us from a business and operational standpoint. So first was, of course, the purchase of the building, the starting of the renovation of the building. And then in the past year or so, with COVID, it has definitely impacted how we do things. And so, fortunately, we had a very strong broadcast ability coming into COVID. So that was excellent. But it has prevented us from meeting in person, getting that kind of juice of being together for practice and for teachings. And it also impacted our ability to reach out to the local community. So there has been those two things. We wanted to make sure that we talked about them in the annual report, brought them up a little bit in our first meeting. With that in mind, with that kind of context, we as a board got together to look at our strategic plan. We had a strategic plan that we put together in 2018. We wanted to see where are we with it and what do we want to focus on going forward. So what we looked at was what have been our successes, what are the things we need to accomplish, and can we focus on a few priorities for the next 12 to 18 months, the really key ones. So our successes, I talked about them a little bit in the annual report. The successes are we purchased the building, we started the renovation on the building, we have expanded our global presence. We had teachings in Europe. Our 2020 registration for Dzogchen cycles went up 20%, and that doesn't even include the additional people who joined us for the Yeshe Sogyo retreat, which was the practice retreat. We added that as a new thing in 2020. We have done a lot of broadcasting, a lot of recording, and we made a lot of it available for free on publicly available as a way to serve the Dharma community in general, bring people into Dawn Mountain. We have about 70 hours of publicly available content that we put on YouTube this year alone. We also put on YouTube about 250 hours of teachings and practices that are available to enrolled students. And in order to be also something that we've wanted to do for a long time, we spoke about it for a long, long time. As an ethical employer, we really, really wanted to offer healthcare benefits to our staff. We talked about it for a long time. We weren't sure if we could afford it, but we just decided it was the right thing to do. And we moved forward in 2019, late in 2019, I think it was the fall sometime when we made it available to people, which was really good timing in terms of having that safety net for people with the pandemic. So that was a really, it's something that happened behind the scenes for people. A lot of members didn't know we did this, but this was something that was very heartening for us. We also we created a new position, a digital manager position, and this is the position that Emily has. What we wanted to do is take the pressure off the volunteers so that we didn't have to have people like Gary always managing the broadcasting and all the other people who help the volunteers managing that program. So we brought this position, we posted it, and we got a great candidate, and we have Emily working on this. So she does the broadcasting program, she maintains our website, and she provides outreach to people across the globe in working for our audience. We also hired Bob, our new executive director, and he's worked really hard on putting together our organizational infrastructure. And I know it doesn't sound sexy or exciting, but it is so critical for our organization. So it's, communications, financial management, planning, helping with fundraising, all those things, just serving as our hub. So really, we have come a long way with that, and thank you, Bob. So that's been our successes to date. Then what we decided at our retreat, and we had Jeannie Enders was our facilitator, and she was spectacular at helping us really focus. This board has lots of opinions, lots of ideas, a lot of vision, and she wanted to have us understand when we came out, we needed something actionable. And we did. We came out with some actionable priorities. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about these, just touch on some of them. Joanne will go into some deeper detail, and Carolyn will as well, but I just wanted to touch on these a little bit. So sorry about my driving. Okay, so the first is the obvious one: complete renovation and move into the building. So this is something that has been, as you know, long in coming, and partially it's because the building needed more work than we thought, and we've had a lot of slowness in the permitting process, and this is because it's a commercial building. The permitting is more than just, for example, electricity or plumbing. It also includes things like traffic and stormwater mitigation. So very detailed, sometimes several cycles with the city. With COVID, it definitely slowed things down, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, when it wasn't clear how many people are working there, and that sort of thing. And also we just halted our construction at that point as well. So we are, in August 2020, we brought in a contractor and said, okay, where are we with the building? How much is it going to cost to complete it? And they did a very thorough evaluation, went through, gave us, a plan going forward, and they're going to serve as our project manager. They are serving as our project manager as we begin construction again this spring. So we're poised on that to move forward. So that's good. The next is financial stability. And this is going to continue to be a focus. It's been a focus for the last few years. As you know, the C3, the Capital Campaign Committee, has put a lot of effort into fundraising. They've done wonderful work with us. We have 3 revenue streams at Dawn Mountain. We have programming, we have membership, and we have giving, philanthropy, just straight giving. So over the past several years, as you know, the Capital Campaign Committee has done a lot of work on fundraising. They've been very energetic. The Sangha has been very responsive, and we thank you for that. We have expanded our programming over the past year. We are going to continue to do that. Carolyn will talk more about what's involved with that. But the idea of expanding the programming is to help us expand our reach. The idea is more people engaged with Dawn Mountain, the more people become members. Some of those people become donors, but we just grow and grow and grow through the programmatic expansion. So financial stability and programmatic expansion have a relation with each other. The beauty of expanding the programs is you're also bringing more Dharma to more people, which is fantastic. So it's not just a business a business goal, but it also has a Dharma goal as well. The 4th item is future teachers, training future teachers and ritual leaders. And our teachers, Anna and Harvey, have identified some students, senior students, to become future teachers and to become ritual leaders, and they're working with them right now. So that has started. And our other initiative that we've been working on, and actually Simone and Janet are heading up the effort to re-engage our volunteers. Now that we're planning to move into the building and have, hopefully over the next year, we'll be in the building. People feel safe to congregate and get together, and we can offer teachings in person. Simone and Janet will be helping to re-engage volunteers. So there's lots of opportunities for volunteers. Some of them are on site, like working with the broadcasting team, hosting events, helping during retreats, all those sorts of things. But there's also some online opportunities. So if you're a remote member and you really want to be involved, there are many things to do, but one of the things that comes to the top of my head is our teaching transcription project. And if you volunteer for that, you really have a good chance to dig in and hear the teachings for a second or third or fourth time, and really get to know them and internalize them. So that's another project. And finally, we are going to be adding at least 2 more board members, maybe more, over the coming year. And if you're interested and want to know what that's about, like what's required, what's entailed, please speak to Bob or any board member. We can fill you in with that. So thank you so much. I am finished with my section. I'd like to hand it over to Joanne. Well, actually to Bob.
I was muted. My apologies.
Oh, there you are.
Yes, here I am. I began telling a wonderful story, but I'll back up. That was a great summary and expression of where the board and Don Mountain as an organization has been focusing our energies. I would also like to point out that despite behind the scenes creating infrastructure, it is incredibly sexy and exciting. I'm just saying. And I love sharing that because introducing our next speaker, Joanne Schneider, our treasurer and co-chair of the development committee, I believe would very much agree with that. I had the great fortune of working with a chief financial officer several years ago who used to always tell people, money doesn't drive mission, mission drives money. And what she meant by that is if you are precise about your mission, if you are articulate about your mission, then you can allocate the proper resources to deliver on your mission. And with Joanne, I think we have somebody who not only exemplifies that, but both leads and guides us by those principles. So Joanne, please.
Thank you, Bob. So good afternoon. It's a privilege to explain how your money supports Dawn Mountain's mission, which is to further the spiritual growth of our diverse community as a bridge between traditional Tibetan Buddhist teachings and curious people everywhere, no matter the amount or whether it comes in the form of membership, program participation, or cash donation. Before I do so, on behalf of the Dawn Mountain Board of Directors, I'd like to thank all of you for your gifts, not just for your money, but for those of you who've given time, skills, teachings, and participation in our Sangha. What you contribute allows us to provide the gift of the Dharma to the world, particularly through Kitson Rinpoche's treasures, and we are humbly mindful of the trust placed in us to responsibly manage your offerings. Now I will provide an overview and share data, the sexiest part of this, on 2020 revenue, expenses, and fixed assets, along with fundraising information since 2018. It's important to note that over the past 2 years, we've instituted enhanced financial controls, tracking, understanding of cash flows, and financial projections by contracting with the company called Your Part-Time Comptroller, or YPTC, to verify that our accounting is sound and to add new tools, like transitioning QuickBooks from a standalone computer to an online database available to several of us. I'm pleased to report that in 2020, Dawn Mountain was profitable on an operating basis as it has been since 2017. Excluding restricted donations and expenses related to the Skylit Temple, we realized a positive net income of over $100,000 this year that will be used to help complete renovations. So now I'm going to show you okay. Show you the tables and graphs that Bob has spent a lot of great time and effort producing. So revenue is generated from program enrollment, cash donations, events like the Dzogchen Cycle's annual auction, and when possible, in-person galas and paid memberships. Revenue increased in 2020 from programs, events, and memberships, despite the fact that programs and events were only available online much of the year due to the pandemic. This meant that we were unable to hold the in-person fall gala as originally planned, but it's worth noting that our llamas worked hard to compensate by engaging in added outreach that increased program participation and by adding a Fall Wonders of Discovery weekend retreat, plus an online benefit. Regarding donations, the launch of a capital campaign 3 years ago brought strong returns in 2018 and 2019. But with 2020 donations at roughly 173,000 began to return to a lower norm. So now let's walk through the capital campaign fundraising figures since 2018. The total funds received as of the end of December were an amazing $1,030,513. Total funds expended on building and renovations as of the end of December were $893,275. The delta is $137,225 in savings, which is represented below to help meet upcoming expenses. So current 2021 estimates and figures are, we think we need roughly $295,000 to complete renovations. We plan to meet this by using savings from the campaign, the $137,225 just mentioned, plus funds received and or pledged for 2021. And this is as of the beginning of March. So that's $95,730 equals the total available for renovations, which is $232,955. This leaves an outstanding amount of $63,045, which is included in this year's fundraising plan. And I would like to take a moment here just to acknowledge Jerry, who has provided us with a lot of the funds that we've received information, and she's really the powerhouse behind our QuickBooks application. Okay, so on to expenses, which were much lower this year. After a hiatus of 6 months in 2019 without a paid executive director, and I will comment that Lama Namgyal Dorje, in his spare time, functioned as an unpaid executive director. But it's meant that personnel expenses naturally increased in 2020 with a full-time ED, Bob, and we added benefits to our 3 terrific staff members, Jerry, Emily, and Bob, a long-standing strategic goal. The pandemic allowed us to reduce operating expenses, for example, with staff working from their homes rather than from rented space, and from reduced building expense as renovation work was suspended. That's just now beginning to resume. However, in seeking bids to restart this work, we've learned that completing the building will be more expensive than originally anticipated. And this was represented in the $295,000 estimate in the previous slide needed to complete renovations. But what this means in terms of fixed assets is that investing funds in the temple has allowed Dawn Mountain's balance sheet to grow. Purchase and renovation expenses are visible in the expansion of fixed assets, and this trend will continue as we complete work on the building and continue to make our mortgage payments. I'm not done yet. As we complete renovations in 2021, the need for annual giving will be increasingly important to address operational areas in the board's strategic plan. For this reason, we've transformed the Capital Campaign Committee, popularly known as C3, into a development committee, which will focus on raising funds for both operating and capital expenses. Its broader scope will help us work toward future goals, such as building a 3 to 6 month operating reserve fund and then paying off the mortgage as soon as possible. This transition brought a reorganization of our terrific fundraising team, composed of Teresa Einhorn, Albrecht Enders, Jeannie Enders, Carolyn McKnight, Carolyn Niehaus from Metaskills Consulting, and co-chaired by Karen Kolajowski and myself. While all members of the team have given 110%, I'd like to call out Karen for special recognition for playing a pivotal role in fundraising for the Skylit Temple. And Karen, I believe you are here. Could you just say hi?
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
I just wanted everyone to see Karen. In the fall of 2017, Karen approached Ann and Harvey with the proposal that it was time for Dawn Mountain to create a capital campaign. Her rationale was that we had been reciting the temple prayer long enough already. We should just do it. The board approved this, and Karen agreed to co-chair the committee, not only providing leadership, but support resources from her own company, Metaskill Consulting Group in Portland, Oregon, along with being a most generous donor. The good news is that Karen isn't going anywhere. She remains on the development committee, which is now co-chaired by Bob and me. And Karen has agreed to lead the auction planning committee, also composed of Albrecht, Teresa, Bob, and Carolyn Niehaus. So please join me and the board in thanking Karen for her expansive vision, enthusiastic leadership, and generous heart as we move into our next phase of development work. Thank you, Karen. And now back to Bob.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. That was, as you can imagine, that was no easy task to crunch the past 4 years of financial data into about a 15-minute presentation. So Joanne, thank you so much. And Karen, I obviously speak on behalf of everybody when I say thank you for making sure there was actually money in those 4 years of financial data and driving that for us. We are very indebted. Thank you. Switching to a little bit of a difference, we've been talking about where we've come from and where we are. We're going to talk about just briefly about where we're going. As Kate mentioned previously, Dawn Mountain is really driven by 3 revenue streams, and that's programming, giving, and membership. And our 2 largest pillars are, of course, programming and giving. And to give a little bit of a brief glance forward, Carolyn McKnight and I will speak a little bit about those 2 larger streams of programming and giving. From a giving perspective, I'd like to share in the very near future, we are going to share what our annual campaign looks like for 2021. It will generally be referred to as Horizon 2021. And it's a little early for me to share all the details. We have, Joanne and I have what we believe is once again, a sexy and exciting story to tell. It needs to be a little further vetted with our full development committee and our board, but very soon we will share details of this. What I would like to share is that this year's Horizon 2021 is really an evolution of where we were and what our needs are. And we very much, we're kind of taking the 3S approach to this of simplify, sustain, and succeed. We want to simplify the process a little bit. As I'm looking at the screen, I see so many supporters and donors, and you've probably heard Capital Campaign, you've heard a Horizon Initiative, you've heard Bedrock, you've heard Sangha Challenge, you've heard Founders Challenge. We're really going to simplify that and make it easier so that it is very clear how your gift moves the needle for our future to be successful. So again, the focus upon simplifying so that we can sustain it, so that you can help us succeed. That is my geeky teaser, and the full program is coming very soon. Again, the second big revenue stream for us is, of course, programming. And I'm happy to introduce Carolyn McKnight, who is our chair of the program working group. And as you can imagine, when you look at everything, both that we do and that we want to do, there are a lot of threads and there's a lot of conversations going on that touch one another, don't touch one another. It is, I used the expression earlier, it's very much cat herding. And I think we are incredibly fortunate to have somebody like Carolyn, who she not only takes this in, but she's able to both curate and implement a wide range of conversational threads. And I'm always both astounded and extraordinarily grateful that she's taking this on for us. So Carolyn, please.
Great. Thank you, Bob. It's lovely to be with all of you today, and I'm appreciative of that. Last year, the Lamas asked us to convene a small group, and we were fortunate to be working with Jack and Stephanie Cleary, Albrecht Enders, and we've included we're bi-coastal, New York and Oregon. So we've also included Simone Woodage and Janet Montez Diaz, who have the legacy knowledge of Houston. And as we're building out programs, it's important to do both the distance outreach and think forward to when we're back together in Houston, we hope, soon. So this is a business meeting. It's kind of an administrative update. And so this is not like a program overview. You'll see that on the website and as you participate in programs. So it's not so much what that I want to share with you today, but how we're thinking about programming going forward. And so I'm going to share a screen with you, if all goes well here. And imagine that you're going to be able to find with me. Well, maybe that's not going to work. Does that work? Does anyone see that?
Not yet.
No, give me one moment, Carolyn. I'll try to get it up for you. Uh-oh.
It's beautiful on my screen. Well, I'm back. I will keep speaking. Now I'm looking at this gallery again. Thank you, Emily. What we're trying to do is really think through it with 3 levels of programming. And the beauty of it is that in the center are our Dzogchen teachings. And that's the heart and soul of what we do. Our lamas, with the lineage that they carry and the teachings that have been shared with them over these years, are offering to us.
Yes.
With gratitude to Albrecht, who is our graphics individual here. We're mapping our minds onto this visual, which is much greater for us to be able to think together around. And if it's not able to come up, Emily, it's okay. And I apologize.
Enlarging it is great. We're seeing it now. Thank you. It's beautiful.
In the center is what we call the center of our teachings is what our lamas, if I may suggest such, if we watch them and as we live with them and participate with them, it's just so clear that this is the mission of their life, to share these precious teachings. And that's the center of this visual. So for instance, in that bucket would be the cycles offerings. And then we move out into the gold or orange. And that's where we have additional teachers working with us. Dharma explorations would be a good example of that. The Tuesday evenings, as well as some discovery days, where it's a more emotional and psychological perspective of our Buddhist path as well. And then moving out into the blue circle, where we have more community involvement. And this is where we can become more diverse and inclusive, and where we're really seeking to build the bridge that we say in our mission we intend to, with curious people everywhere through these offerings, family programs, physical well-being, more mindful living, etc. And so that's our hope. We're seeking the how is to think in these three ways: the centerpiece of the lineage that our lamas carry, that they're transmitting to us, and then the middle piece where we have additional Buddha Dharma related programs, and then in the outer circle, more community engagement where we can work together to really extend our reach. So that's the how. And I would invite all of you, thank you for that, Emily, invite all of you to really, if you have questions or feedback, send them to us. Any of the members of this working group, please feel free to direct them to us, or obviously know how to reach both Bob and Emily, who are very active with this working group. You can funnel the feedback to them as well. We would really appreciate your doing that and the comments. So with that, we're running close to the end of our prescribed time. We're going to be transitioning now to some questions and answers. So I want to hand it back to Bob, who will give you some instructions about how that will work. And we look forward to hearing from all of you, if not in this question and answer period, later, particularly from where I'm sitting about programming. Please send thoughts to us. And now, Bob, back to you.
Thank you, Carolyn. That was, of course, a very quick overview of a whole lot of thoughts. And Albrecht, thank you so much for the beautiful visual. It captures it wonderfully. And it's funny, as we talk about programs, a lot of times we don't even refer to them by their name. We refer to them by color, because everybody has this wonderful visual in our head of what we're trying to accomplish. So Carolyn, Albrecht, and of course, the entire programming working group, thank you. At this point, we are going to transition to question and answers. So two quick things. This is the end of our formal presentation. If you are watching on YouTube, we're actually going to stop the YouTube broadcast. We're going to ask you to switch over to Zoom, because we are shooting for an interactive and, of course, fun conversation during our questions and answers. And those of you who are on Zoom or transitioning to Zoom, I will give you just a moment to do that while I make our final introduction of the day, which is to two incredibly important people. You might refer to them as the front line. You might refer to them as behind the scenes. You might refer to them as in the trenches. And you would be right on all three accords. And that, of course, is our wonderful staff, who I would love to have them smile and wave. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, Emily, our digital manager. And there we go. Thank you. And of course, our operations manager, Jerry Edgington.
Hi, I have my yak. Because if we were in Tibet, we'd have yaks. So,
Jerry, Emily, thank you so much for everything you do. Love being on the front line, behind the scenes, and of course,